I didn't marry him for love. I married him because I was running out of options. Adrian Hale was everything I needed. Rich, powerful, stable. The kind of man who could make all my problems disappear. And for a while, he did. Until one night, while he was gone, I opened a drawer he told me never to touch. Inside was a list, 5 women, all labeled wife, each name followed by a date. Not birthdays, not anniversaries, dates of death. And at the very bottom was my name, already written, just missing the date. My name is Claire Donovan, and if you saw my life a year ago, you'd understand why I said yes so quickly. I wasn't just struggling, I was sinking. Every month felt like a countdown. Rent overdue, credit cards maxed out, student loans piling interest faster than I could keep up. And then my mom got sick. Surgery, hospital bills, things I couldn't even begin to afford. I was working 2 jobs, sleeping maybe 4 hours a night, constantly calculating which bill I could delay without everything collapsing. So when Adrian Hale walked into my life, it didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like rescue. He was calm, composed, impossibly put together. The kind of man who never rushed, never raised his voice, like nothing in the world could touch him. And somehow, he chose me. Not someone in his world, me. At the time, I told myself it was a miracle. Now I know better. It wasn't luck, it was timing. And I was exactly where he needed me to be. Adrian Hale didn't live like other billionaires. No flashy parties, no social media presence, no interviews. If you searched his name, you'd find articles about his companies, but almost nothing about him. It was like he existed, just outside the spotlight on purpose. The night we met, I wasn't even supposed to be at that gala. It was one of those high-end charity events. Crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, people who spoke in quiet voices, but somehow still sounded important. I was filling in for a coworker who got sick last minute. Borrowed dress, borrowed heels, pretending I belonged. And then I spilled champagne on him, right across his suit. I remember freezing, expecting him to be annoyed, or worse, dismissive. But he didn't react like that. He just looked at me, not at the stain, at me, like he was trying to figure something out. "Are you always this nervous?" he asked. I laughed it off, apologized, tried to walk away, but he stopped me. And that was it. That was the beginning. After that, things moved quickly. Too quickly, if I'm being honest. He sent flowers the next morning. No card, just my name written in precise handwriting. Then came the invitations. Private dinners, quiet places, always controlled environments. He asked questions, lots of them, about my childhood, my health, my stress levels, my routines. At the time, I thought he was just attentive. Now, I realize he was collecting data. Within a month, he proposed. No grand speech, no dramatic setup. Just a simple question like it had already been decided. "Marry me, Claire." And I said yes, because stability doesn't feel suspicious when you've never had it. The estate I moved into after the wedding felt less like a home and more like a system. 40 acres surrounded by tall black fencing. Cameras positioned at every angle, subtle but impossible to ignore once you notice them. The house itself was modern, almost sterile. Clean lines, neutral colors, everything perfectly in place. Like no one actually lived there. There were staff during the day, housekeepers, a groundskeeper, occasionally a driver. But every evening, without fail, they all left. No overnight staff, no security guards. Just me and Adrian. I asked him about it once. "Wouldn't it be safer to have someone here at night?" He smiled, like the answer was obvious. "I prefer privacy." And the way he said it didn't feel like a preference. It felt like a rule. Living with him was strange in ways I couldn't quite explain at first. Adrian wasn't cold. He wasn't cruel. If anything, he was precise. Every conversation felt intentional, every movement measured. He woke up at the same time every day, ate the same meals, took calls behind closed doors, and every night, he disappeared into his office, always the same time, always locking the door behind him. At first, I didn't question it. Everyone has boundaries, right? But over time, the silence of the house started to press in on me. No background noise, no laughter, no signs of life outside of our routines. Just the quiet hum of something controlled. And slowly, I began to realize I didn't really know my husband at all. The first time something felt truly wrong, it wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, almost easy to ignore. It started with the nights. Adrian would disappear into his office around 9 p.m., always the same time, like clockwork. He'd kiss me lightly on the forehead, say, "Don't wait up," and lock the door behind him. At first, I assumed it was work. Late meetings, sensitive calls, but then I started noticing patterns. He never brought his laptop in with him, never took calls during that time. And somehow, there was never any sound coming from inside. No typing, no talking, nothing. Just silence. One night, I passed by the door a little later than usual. I wasn't trying to listen. At least, not at first. But then I heard something, a faint sound. Not voices, not movement. More like a low hum. Steady. Mechanical. Out of place. I froze, my hand hovering near the door. For a second, I thought about knocking, but something stopped me. That instinct you get when your body understands something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. So I walked away. Told myself I was overthinking. The next morning, I brought it up casually over breakfast. "What do you usually do in your office at night?" I asked, trying to sound light. He didn't even look up from his coffee. "Work. Simple, flat, no elaboration." I smiled, pushed a little. "Sounds intense." That's when he looked at me. Not angry, not defensive, just still. "Claire," he said quietly, "there are parts of my life that don't involve you." The words themselves weren't harsh, but the tone, it landed like a warning. After that, things shifted. Not in obvious ways, but enough that I could feel it. The house felt quieter, colder. And Adrian, he started watching me. Not all the time, just enough. Like he was checking something, measuring something, waiting. And for the first time since I married him, I started to wonder if I hadn't just entered a life of security, but stepped into something I wasn't meant to see. It started with a simple question. Too simple. One night, while we were sitting in the living room, him reading, me pretending to, I asked casually, "Have you ever been married before?" He didn't answer right away. Not long, just a fraction of a second. But it was enough, because Adrian never hesitated. Then he turned the page of his book and said, "No." No explanation, no follow-up, just no. And something about the way he said it, smooth, controlled, felt less like truth and more like a decision. A few days later, I left the estate for the first time on my own. I needed air, noise, people, something that reminded me the world still existed outside those walls. I stopped at a small cafe about 10 minutes away. Nothing fancy, just normal. And that's where she found me, an older woman. Late 50s, maybe early 60s. She kept looking at me from across the room like she was trying to build up the courage to say something. Eventually, she walked over. "Excuse me," she said gently. "Are you Claire?" My stomach tightened. "Yes." She studied my face, and I swear, her expression shifted from curiosity to something like fear. "You look just like her," she whispered. A chill ran through me. Like who? She hesitated, glancing toward the window like she expected someone to be watching. Then she said it. "Lydia." That name stuck with me the entire drive home. Lydia. I'd never heard it before. Adrian had never mentioned it. So that night after he went into his office, I searched. At first, nothing came up. But then I tried something different. Lydia Hale. And there it was, a single result, an obituary. No photo, no detailed biography, just a name. Lydia Hale, age 32. Survived by no one listed. Cause of death, undisclosed. The date, 2 years ago. Exactly 2 years. The next morning, I watched Adrian carefully. Every movement, every expression. Looking for something, anything, that might connect him to that name. But he was the same as always. Calm, controlled, untouchable. I almost convinced myself I was overreacting, until I decided to push. "Do you know anyone named Lydia?" I asked, as casually as I could manage. For the first time, he paused, really paused. His hand stopped mid-motion, setting down his cup. And then he looked at me, not confused, not curious, just assessing. "Where did you hear that name?" he asked. My heart started pounding. "I just came across it somewhere," I said quickly. It sounded familiar. Silence stretched between us. Then he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Claire," he said softly, "you shouldn't go looking into things that don't concern you." The room felt colder, smaller. "Why not?" I asked, my voice barely steady. He leaned back slightly, studying me like I was something fragile or dangerous. "Because," he said, "curiosity can lead you to places you're not prepared for." That should have been enough. That should have been the moment I stopped. But instead, it did the opposite. Because suddenly, I wasn't just curious. I was certain. There was something to find. And whatever it was, Adrian didn't want me anywhere near it. That night, I stood outside his office door again. The same door he locked every evening, the same silence behind it. But this time, I didn't walk away. I pressed my ear lightly against the wood. And there it was again, that low, steady hum. Not loud, not mechanical enough to identify, but real, constant, like something running, something hidden. My pulse started racing, because suddenly, Lydia wasn't just a name anymore. She was a question. And I had the feeling. I wasn't the first person to ask it. A week later, Adrian told me he'd be out of town. 2 days, he said, buttoning his cufflinks. Try to relax while I'm gone. Relax, right. I waited exactly 20 minutes after his car disappeared past the gates. Then I went straight to his office. This time, the door wasn't locked. That alone made my stomach turn. Because Adrian didn't forget things. Inside, everything was exactly how I expected. Clean, minimal, controlled. No clutter, no personal items. Just a desk and that same locked drawer. My hands were shaking as I searched for the key. I found it tucked neatly inside a small box in his desk. Like it wasn't meant to be hidden. Just delayed. When the drawer clicked open, I already knew I wasn't going to like what I found. But I wasn't ready for this. 5 names. All labeled wife. Each followed by a date, perfectly spaced, exactly 2 years apart. Lydia Hale, Marissa Cole, Evelyn Wright, Sophie Lynn, Rachel Voss, and then my name, Claire Donovan Hale. No date, just a blank space, waiting. And in that moment, the question wasn't if something was wrong. It was how much time I had left. I didn't just close the drawer. I slammed it shut. Like somehow that could undo what I'd just seen. My hands were shaking so badly I had to grip the edge of the desk just to stay upright. 5 wives, 5 deaths, every 2 years. And now, me. I told myself to think, to be rational. There had to be an explanation, right? Something legal, something medical, something that made sense. But then I noticed the folder, sitting neatly beside the drawer, labeled in clean, precise handwriting. Observations. I shouldn't have opened it. But at that point, there was no going back. Inside were profiles, not just basic information, Everything: medical records, psychological evaluations, financial histories, personal habits, fears, stress responses. And every single file followed the same pattern: different names, same type of woman, struggling, isolated, financially unstable, no strong support system. My chest tightened as I flipped through the pages faster, because it wasn't random. It was selection, careful, deliberate, calculated. And then I found mine. My entire life reduced to data. My debts listed down to the exact dollar. My mother's medical history, my work schedule, even notes on my personality. High stress tolerance. Adaptable under pressure. Strong survival instinct. I felt sick. I wasn't his wife. I was a candidate. That's when I heard it. The sound of tires on gravel, outside. My heart stopped. No, he wasn't supposed to be back yet. I rushed to the window. And there it was. His car, pulling through the gate, slow, controlled, like always. Panic hit instantly. I grabbed my bag, barely thinking, just moving. But as I ran toward the front door, a sharp beep cut through the silence. The security system activated. I froze. Then another sound. Soft. Final. Click. All the doors had just locked. And from somewhere behind me, his voice. Calm. Too calm. "Claire?" A pause. Then closer. "I think we need to talk." I turned slowly. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to run, but there was nowhere left to go. Adrian stood at the end of the hallway, perfectly composed, like he had expected this moment all along. "You went into my office," he said. Not a question, a conclusion. I couldn't even deny it. "Who are they?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Those women, your wives. What did you do to them?" For a moment, he actually looked disappointed, not angry, just tired. "They weren't failures," he said quietly. "They were necessary." My stomach dropped. Necessary for what? He stepped closer, slow, deliberate. "For progress." I shook my head, backing away. Those are people, Adrian." "They were candidates," he corrected calmly. "Candidates." The word hit harder than anything else. "You think I wanted them to die?" he continued. "Every one of them was chosen carefully, tested, prepared." Tested for what? He stopped just a few feet away now, close enough that I could see it clearly. Not madness, not rage, but belief. Absolute, terrifying belief. "For your survival," he said. A beat, then softer, almost hopeful. "But," his eyes locked onto mine, "you're different." And that's when it truly sank in. He wasn't trying to kill me. Not yet. Not the way I thought. He reached out slowly, like he didn't want to scare me. Like this was something gentle, something inevitable. "Claire," he whispered, "you might finally make it through." Everything inside me went cold. Not panic, not screaming, just clarity. Because in that moment, I understood something terrifying. Adrian didn't see himself as a killer. He thought he was saving something, perfecting something, and that made him far more dangerous. I took a slow step back, then another, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're insane," I whispered. But he didn't react, didn't flinch, just watched me like I was proving a point. "You're afraid?" he said calmly. They all were, at this stage. At this stage. Like there were steps, phases. Like this had all happened before. My mind started racing. Every door locked, no signal, no way out, and him standing between me, and any chance of escape. But then, I realized something else. If he thought I was the closest match, the one most likely to survive, then he wouldn't rush. He wouldn't kill me. Not yet. So I stopped backing away, forced myself to breathe, to think, to play along. "What happens next?" I asked, barely above a whisper. His expression softened. not with kindness, but with satisfaction. And that was the moment I knew. I wasn't trying to escape anymore, not yet. I was trying to survive long enough to find a way out. Adrian stepped closer, his hand hovering just inches from mine. Not forceful, not violent, just certain. Like this was already decided. "You'll understand soon," he said quietly. They all did, eventually. But I shook my head, because deep down, I knew the truth he refused to see. They didn't understand. They realized. Too late. And as his fingers finally wrapped around my wrist, gentle, steady, I forced myself not to pull away. Not yet, because if I was going to survive this, I couldn't be the next name on his list. I had to be the first one, who never got a date.